This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Welcome back to Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network. Sirius XM channel 158. We're live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino, home of the world's largest sports book. Alongside Matt Brown, Stormy Buonantony with you, our wonderful producer Brian Ortega behind the glass today. Lots to get to this hour. Coming up in 30 minutes, VSiN.com Managing Editor Adam Burke is going to stop by the show. He'll help us break down what is a 15-game slate in Major League Baseball. Always fun when you have all 30 teams in action on a day. We will also be breaking down the 4 games in the National Hockey League postseason today. A little NBA talk with our best bets at the end of the hour. But where we're going to start is we are 2 days away from the NFL draft getting underway from Green Bay, Wisconsin, out there at Lambeau. Yeah, Wisconsin. Great. And, you were talking yesterday about the potential for trades in the first round. Well, how about for picks 2 or 3? ESPN NFL insider Peter Schrager said on Get Up this morning that while the Titans aren't entertaining any trade offers, the same cannot be said for the Browns and Giants.
Yeah,
there have been phone calls made to both the Browns at 2 and the Giants at 3 with the intention to move up from several different sources telling me there are teams who are looking to get up in this draft to either the 2 or the 3 spot. The assumption being to move up to the 2 or the 3 spot, it would be for Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, or the running back Ashton Genty, who everyone expects to go somewhere in that 5 to 7 to 8 range.
Yeah, I hopped on Gil's show a little bit earlier, and it's so everyone's, I think, assumption at the beginning was like, because there's only 3 or 4 hyper elite blue chip prospects in this draft that we weren't going to see many trades, right? And I'm actually taking the opposite thought of that, which is if it's not that expensive, it doesn't cost you very much to swap here and there. Mm-hmm. And it's like you kind of like a player, and you're not, and it's one of those things where all we're hearing about is all these teams that want to trade back, right? That's all we've heard, right? Panthers, they say they'll trade back. The Cowboys, they're not in love with them. Maybe they would trade. All these teams say they want to trade back. Well, then shouldn't that mean then, Stormy, as us as bettors go, well, then it's not going to cost very much then to swap 2 or 3 spots, right? Mm-hmm. Like typically where that used to be a very big deal. What if it's like, okay, you know what? Let's just flip 4 positions and then we'll throw you a 5th or so, whatever. We'll throw you a 6th next year or whatever it might be. And so I think we might see a little bit more action here in this first round than people thought, mainly because, hey, if it's not going to cost me all that much, and I kind of like this dude, it's not going to break my heart if we don't get him. So I call him up and I just say, hey, look, y'all want to swap and we'll throw you a 5th or whatever, or we'll throw you a 6th. If they say no, I don't care, right? But if they say yes, okay, we move up 3 or 4 spots, and so I think that we might get some of those, like nothing just, oh my God, this team, moved up 20 spots or something. But I think these like 3 and 4 and 5 spot swaps are going to be a little bit more common than maybe we thought.
And okay, I want to share you something that bugs me about some of these insiders as well, because we see this clip from Peter Schrager that we just shared. And then James Palmer, who's another one of these NFL insider types, quote tweets this clip and says, I know a team in the top 10 that is head over heels with Travis Hunter. They have been for a while. Mm-hmm. Why don't you just say who the team is? At this point, like, what is the conversation around the draft? Always. Yeah. It is rumor mill. Mm-hmm. Like, there is no point in withholding who you think these teams are that could. I understand that you're an insider and you have relationship building and all of this stuff, but you're not outing your sources. You're not saying who from inside the organization is telling you this information. So that kind of stuff bothers me. Week of the draft, we're 48 hours away from the day, and all that the draft is rumor mill conversation. Just say who the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, and the other thing too, just about that is interesting about that in general is, who do these teams think Travis Hunter actually is, because we come into the process and we're like, okay, the general consensus is he's going to play corner, and then he'll help out a team as their, wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, something like that. Then you get the Browns come out and like, oh, we actually view him more as a wide receiver, right? Like he's going to play wide receiver for us, and then he'll help out on the defensive side. So when you hear something like that too, it's like, okay, a team's head over heels for him to do what? Yeah. Like, do they honestly think he's the best receiver in this class? Which maybe they do. Or is he like, oh no, he's a primary corner that we think is right up there at the top, and then also considering that he can help us on the offensive side, whatever. It's like, yeah, we don't even know what these teams even think about him anymore.
Ryan Clark, and you can agree or disagree with his takes all you want. He, in my opinion, made a really good statement with regard to Travis Hunter, that if you are a team that is drafting him high up in this draft, you have to be using him as both a wide receiver and corner. Because if you're picking one or the other, he's not an elite number one in the NFL at either of those things. But he could be a really like a rock solid number two for you at both of those things. So the only reason that you would really want to draft Travis Hunter that high is if you plan on using him both ways. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And I think that's a very fair take. And I don't think that that's out of bounds for him to say it all. I don't think, some people say stuff just because they want to get the headlines. Yeah, they want to get the headlines. But I think that's a very fair take. And I don't think that he's out of bounds for that.
He's still minus 800, by the way, to be the number 2 overall pick. And these markets are different. You're not necessarily saying he's going to the Browns, but that he's going to be the number 2 selection.
Right. Which is why you can still bet Shedeur Sanders to go to the Browns. And that doesn't necessarily mean with the number 2 overall pick, right? I mean, maybe they trade out of there. Maybe they trade up back into the first round from their early pick in the second round. I mean, there's all kinds of ways where that bet can still cash. Unfortunately, I'm on just the exact number 2. I'm not on him to the Browns, but I do have a Hunter position in 2 as well. One of the things I do think is interesting as we head into this is just the positions in which we're not really sure if there is a separation in who is generally considered to be the number 1 dude, and then who's either the number 2 dude or the number 3 dude, right? Which is something that I think is fairly interesting in all of this. So, for example, let's go to the whole Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland conversation, right?
Which is gaining steam.
You can take Loveland at 5-1 to be the first tight end taken over Warren, and they are different players. And there might be a team that looks at Loveland and says, he kind of fits a little bit better what we're doing, and they might pick him, and I think that those situations are things where we can still go ahead and put these bets into our account as we head into the draft. And you only got to be right 1 out of 5 times, right, for these things to pay off.
And another thing, so kind of in that same vein, these markets are moving all over the place every day with different information. And you mentioned the Shedeur Sanders to the Browns. Well, Shedeur was favored to go to the Saints for how long? And that conversation is completely flipped. He was plus 110 to go to the Saints. Now that number's 7-1. The Steelers are a plus 190 favorite. The Browns plus 200. The Giants plus 215. These numbers are consistently on the move, so there could be opportunity one way or another on a handful of these. We talked yesterday a lot about Ashton Genty, who, when we first saw these markets open up, he was as high for a draft position at 12.5. Then we saw that go, 10.5, 9.5, 8.5. Now we're sitting 6.5 with the conversation about actually could he go top 5, where that has gained a little bit of steam. Yesterday when we were on the air, it was plus 150 for him to be a top 5 pick. This morning I go look at the market and it's plus 120.
Yeah. Fortunately, I've got the under 9.5 in the account. I feel very good about that. I mean, certainly all the rumors that are coming out this morning back up that I should be feeling pretty good about that. But it's the other side of the coin from what we just talked about. So if there are only 4 or 5 guys that everybody is okay, locked and loaded, should be a future Pro Bowler, multiple time All Pro, et cetera, right? Genty, don't kill the messenger here. I'm just reporting what these talent evaluators say. I don't evaluate talent, but they say Genty is a plug and play 3-down back that's going to give you 8 to 10 great years, in the NFL, right? And so if that's the case, I can understand why maybe there's some movement up there for him, because you're sitting here going, I don't really like Ted McMillan. I don't think Matthew Golden's all that great. He's fast. Cool. I don't really think he's all that great. You start looking around and you're Will Campbell, he's got short arms. So you start nitpicking all this stuff and you go, or I have this back that could, on the upside, be a complete game changer from day one, right? And so maybe they just say to hell with conventional thinking, which is you can't take a running back this high, and I'm going to go get a player that is going to be my Pro Bowl dude for 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons.
Trevor Sikkema, who's pretty good on this stuff, PFF senior draft analyst, he was on with Patrick Maher and Dustin Sweetelson yesterday, and he was saying, diving deeper into that thought process, that for him, there are 3 blue chip guys. It's Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, and Ashton Genty. Those are the 3 guys that people want and people think can be potential game changers for their franchise. And so with that, have you looked at any of these top 5 exact order markets? Because I was looking at, if you have Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, let's say hypothetical, Will Campbell, and then Ashton Genty 5, that's 3-1. But if you put Genty at 4 and then Mason Graham, who's been favored to go 5, that's 11 to 1.
Yeah.
So like there are just some potential ways if you want to reorder things or if you believe that a team might be interested in Ashton Genty that you could play that.
I said this yesterday. I will continue to say this. I think that the draft starts at 4. I think we have a pretty good idea of who's going to go 1, 2, 3. I think the draft starts at 4. I don't think the Patriots are completely like, hey, don't call us. We don't want to hear from you. You know, I think that the Patriots are going to listen to offers. And if somebody wants to come up and do something right there, I think they're willing to move. And so I think that the draft gets really, really dicey at 4 and certainly at 5 with the Jags because they could do just about anything, right? I mean, they could do, rookie GM, rookie head coach, like all of this. I mean, they might say like, I don't like any of these dudes, like whatever. Let's get back and try to, get extra picks in this draft. I mean, I think it's wide open at 5.
You are going to be a part of our specialty draft programming coming up on Thursday, by the way. What can people expect?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're obviously going to give any last minute news and stuff that's heading into whenever this thing kicks off. But there are states out there, unfortunately, Nevada not being one of them. Look at your state, look at your state out there, look at the rules. You can live bet the draft, which I think is awesome. Right? Like you go in, you see how the board starts to fall, and then you were able to literally go in and make a decision and make a bet on all of that. I think that's great, and that's what we're going to try to talk people through.
It's going to be great. VSiN Primetime Draft Edition starting Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, followed up by Cashing Out Draft Edition. You want to watch or listen live, head over to vsin.com/draft or in the VSiN Watch app, wherever you can find VSiN. It'll be available again, that coming up this Thursday. We're going to take a quick timeout. Looking at a little stick and puck. The NHL postseason rolls on when we're back here next on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We're rolling along here on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Matt and Stormy here live in downtown Las Vegas, the beautiful Circa Resort and Casino.
Going to be hopping here on Thursday. You just mentioned we're going to be doing that draft coverage. So imagine there'll be a lot of people out here sweating their bets, screaming, yelling, talking about how terrible that their team did or how awesome their team did. Maybe I think most people want to be optimistic about their team's pick. So,
I wonder how Titans fans are feeling right now, genuinely, because we've talked a lot. Like Cam Ward is.
You know how they feel.
Not great.
They had Billy Levi's at quarterback. You could put insert warm body here, and it's like,
you really think that they are jumping for joy with Cam Ward?
Did you watch Billy Levi's?
Well, I know it was bad, but come on,
gosh,
man.
He was.
But because you mentioned how fun it's going to be here. It always is on a busy sporting event day, the way that this sports book goes crazy. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen the pictures and videos of Stadium Swim. We're getting to that nice weather here in Vegas where there's no better place to be than out there at the pool. And right now, Circa is offering a really cool getaway package for $400. All in. You get a 2-night stay here on the property, $100 in dining credit, $100 beverage credit, and your very own day bed at Stadium Swim that I was just talking about. Again, $400 resort fees, taxes, all of that is included. It's a limited time offer though. Stays between May 26th and September 4th. Don't miss out. Lock in your all-in summer package right now at circalasvegas.com. That's how you can get that info. Isn't that great?
Well, I mean, let me tell you, really good restaurant, really good steakhouse here. You take that $100 dining credit down there to that, then wake up all hungover the next day and crawl up in your day bed and just pass out. That's going to be great.
You guys don't understand. This is a really good deal.
Yeah, it's a good deal. $400 all-in pricing, man. Take advantage of that. CircaLasVegas.com. All right, I'm going to ask you some questions about the old hockey here, and we're going to start with the Panthers and the Lightning. That is at 8:40 Eastern, 5:40 Pacific. Currently, not quite a coin flip. -120 Lightning at home here, even money with the Panthers. 5.5 is our total. If you like that puck line, which we know sometimes you guys out there like to play, the Lightning are -1.5 at +215.
The puck lines were great for the favorites early on, the first couple days of the NHL postseason. Like all of the favorites were coming through, which favorites on the money line continue to cash, by the way. We are 8-1 for money line favorites in the NHL postseason. We started out 5-0 covering the puck line for the favorites in all of those. Yesterday, all of those games were decided by one. So like we were talking about with Justin about following trends blindly, maybe not, because we see these things change so much. So favorites go from 5-0 on the puck line to 5-4. The lone dog to earn a round one upset so far was the Stars last night. Now, Panthers Lightning is interesting because this is the first game that we've seen of these series where we've already seen 2 games in some, and we had to wait to watch the Florida Panthers make their defense of their Stanley Cup title from a year ago. The line has moved a good bit in this. Like, Florida has been favored throughout in the series. Even in game 1, this number has moved around a bit for Tampa now to be -120. I bet them -105. So this thing has been on the move, but I like the Lightning in this spot at home. They are another team. We talked yesterday about how good the Kings were on home ice. The Florida Panthers are another one of those teams that is great at Amalie Arena, 29-8-4 this season, 4th best in the NHL. They have a really nice, well-rounded lineup. Perhaps the best, honestly, since they won back-to-back cups in 20 and 21. Looking at their scoring upside, led the league in scoring this year, 3.56 goals per game. They're also allowing just 2.9 goals against since Four Nations, have significantly elevated their game on the blue line. Andrei Vasilevsky is playing awesome. The wild card for me still with Florida is their lineup. I think they're a little bit challenging to handicap right now because of the injury to one of their biggest stars in Matthew Tkachuk. He has been out and unavailable since the Four Nations face-off, where he got injured in that. He's supposedly like a game time decision today. I think even if he's 10%, he's playing in this game. We're in the playoffs now. He is that team guy. It's very important to him. But what does that mean he's actually going to bring? I'm not sure. Aaron Ekblad also is going to miss the first 2 games of this series with a 20-game suspension that he's got to finish out. The Seth Jones acquisition at times has looked good, at times has looked not good at all, especially 5-on-5. So they still have a lot of talent. Don't get me wrong. Like, they've got Sam Reinhart, Barkov, Verhaeghe, all these guys. They've got great goaltending, which is why I do lean under in this game as well. It's at that 5.5. I understand why you've got that slight juice on the under at -112 right now. I don't have a bet on the total, but that's the way I would lean. I just think Tampa has more things looking up for them in game 1 at home.
We have -115 and -105 on the series price. That is Panthers slightly favored on the series price at -115, Lightning at -105. Do you like the Lightning to get it done overall?
Yeah, I bet them in the series. So I'm on the Lightning. But again, like, this has shifted a good bit too. The Lightning had the better season for them. They're the better seed, yet they're the dog in this set. I bet +105. And so we're at -105 now. I would still fire on that. I think the Lightning are a legit cup contender this year.
6:10 Eastern, 3:10 Pacific. My New Jersey Devils.
Yeah.
Going on the road to the Carolina Hurricanes. This is, this line is out of hand. -278 for the Hurricanes at home, +225 Devils on the road. This is 5.5 on the total. That is juiced towards the under, and that old puck line is even money for the Hurricanes at -1.5 goals.
I just don't think this is a good matchup for your Devils. I'm sorry. I have the Canes -1.5 games in this series. So for anyone who's not used to betting series spread, you got to win.
That's not going to help my bet there, Stormy. Sorry. If you win, then I lose.
You got to win by at least 2 games in the series. My favorite bet, honestly, that I made of the NHL postseason was just outright the Vegas Golden Knights to win their series and the Canes to win theirs. I did a series parlay at +110, and that is my favorite bet of the whole thing. I think that there isn't a doubt in my mind that these 2 teams get out of the first round. It was all Carolina in game 1. 4-1. They improved to 3-0 at home this season against the Devils. They got out to a 3-0 lead, never really opened the door. Carolina had nearly double the shot output from the Devils in game 1. Shots on goal, Carolina 45, the Devils 24. And it was a little bit interesting to me how hot of a start Carolina got out to, because Rod Brind'Amour made the comment prior to game 1 that he was a little bit nervous about rust. They lost a bunch of games at the end of the regular season because they were resting guys. They didn't really care about their lineup. And how do those guys come out? Well, they looked fresh. They looked healthy. And there's that rest versus rust debate. The rest paid off for Carolina, and I think it will again in this game. Meanwhile, the Devils saw a bunch of guys get injured. They were already down Jack Hughes and I don't know how to say some of these names. Sorry. I know fine. I'm usually good with the hockey names. Jonas Siegenthaler.
Nobody's.
They were already down those 2. And then Luke Hughes, Cody Glass, and Brendan Dillon all get dinged up in the game as well. A couple of those guys didn't come back. He did say that Dillon could have come or wanted to come back, but the trainer held him out. I just feel like this is advantage Hurricanes. So I think a puck line play is worthwhile in this game. Their home road splits are crazy. They're another team that's great at home this season, 32-9-1 after the game one win, averaging just shy of 3.8 goals per game at home. Their special teams are even better at home. So Canes puck line, prior to that stretch at the end of the season I talked about where they dropped 7 of 8 games, resting their big guys, they covered the puck line in 6 of their last 7 at home prior to that stretch. I think it's another 4-2 type of a game here. So that's where I'm rolling with it. I like those. Those are my 2 favorite bets today.
Let me tell you, you just look right into the camera. You say the name as confidently as humanly possible. No one else knows how to say it. And so all they say is after you say it, they go, oh, that's how you say it. Whether you were right or not, it doesn't really matter. So for you hockey nuts out there on the East Coast, games on ESPN and the Panthers and Lightning, so they got to wait around for this Wild and Golden Knights game. This is 11 Eastern.
Yeah.
11 Eastern for you guys out there. About minus 230-ish in favor of the home Knights here in this one.
Yeah, and this is actually down a little bit, so the Wild got a little bit of play here. And maybe it's because it was a competitive, physical game one. The Golden Knights end up winning that game 4-2. We talked about it yesterday, all of the craziness at the end with that Brett Howden empty net goal at the end of this thing. But it was a tough, hard-fought game. Like, a lot of hits. Minnesota had 54 hits in the game. Both of these teams in the first period alone neared their season averages or exceeded it for hits for what they have in a full game. Why you see the total there at 5.5 again. I like the Golden Knights to win. What I think I might end up doing, so I told you I like the Canes Golden Knights series parlay that I put together. I think a Canes Golden Knights money line parlay tonight could be worthwhile. Maybe a Golden Knights Lakers money line parlay, maybe even all 3. So when we get to best bets later on in the show, we'll see what I end up cementing in that from that standpoint. But nothing just standalone on this game right now. I think the Golden Knights should win, but that game one was a little bit closer than I anticipated it being.
This is just another instance of West Coast, best coast when it comes to sports viewing.
Yes.
It really is. It always is.
11 o'clock on the East Coast. That brutal for them.
Now
I don't even like it at 8 o'clock.
Now, the London NFL games, we have to get up at 6 a.m. I would rather get up at 6 a.m., I think, because we're starting early anyway on an NFL Sunday morning as it is, than have to stay up until 11 to start a game.
No disagreement out of me.
Okay, good. West Coast, best coast always. That's what I like about it.
Show. But yeah, also just like, I feel bad though for some of these teams, just the East Coast bias that they have. It's because nobody stays up to watch half of these teams on the East Coast.
By the way, there was a 4-0 lead. Don't go to bed. There was a 4-0 lead that got evaporated already, so you can't go to bed.
I was on the West Coast and still almost turned it off. So there we go. On that note, we're going to take a quick timeout. VSiN's own Adam Burke joins us after this. We're going to dive into the MLB slate and get to the latest on the NBA playoffs that continue tonight. Don't go anywhere.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We are rolling along here on this Tuesday edition of Money Moves live in downtown Las Vegas. He's Matt Brown. I'm Stormy Buonantony. We're on Sirius XM channel 158 as we welcome in live in studio VSiN.com managing editor Adam Burke on the program. And maybe you'll have an opinion on this. Thank you to Jason H11, regular listener here on the show, who just tweeted at us. It sucks being a Golden Knights fan and living on the East Coast. On the bright side, there's no end of game anxiety when you fall asleep before the second period. We were talking about West Coast being the best coast for sports viewing with some of these late starts. You agree?
Oh, yeah. 100%. Yeah, because, I mean, look, I can watch a Browns game on a Sunday that starts at 10 a.m. and it's over by 1, and it doesn't ruin my entire evening like it used to back at home. So, yeah, I completely agree with that. And especially you think about, like, national championship games, Final Four, all these big types of events, right? They're over at midnight on the East Coast. You know, like, people have to work the next day. Here, they're over at 9 o'clock. So you just go to bed. I agree. West Coast, best coast.
Sunday night football, Monday night football. Your day isn't completely over when they're over. You can still watch other stuff if you want to, or do some other things, or
you watch something on Hulu and decompress and go to sleep.
Yeah, especially if it didn't go your way. You're just all right, I'm going to watch something else till that's not my last memory.
When I lived in Charlotte for a couple years, because I was a West Coast sports fan, so I can completely relate to what Jason is saying. Like, I'd watch San Diego State basketball or something like that late at night, and you're not done watching that thing until 2 o'clock in the morning because the super late starts. It's ridiculous.
And if you're invested in it, whether it's as a fan or financially, there's a little bit of a hangover to that type of thing.
Meanwhile, for me last night, to Jason's point again as well, I wish that I wasn't awake and having to sweat out the end of the Los Angeles Kings game and the Los Angeles Clippers game, because both of those are like going on simultaneously, and I'm just stressed, every ounce of myself, just stressed.
Well, and also we've discussed this before, how early you get up to prep for this show. So
I'm an early riser. I'm a morning person. I need to go to sleep at 9:30. What can I say?
I'm a morning person, but I still go to bed late, which is why I think the older I get, the more I hit that. They always talk about that like 4 o'clock crash or whatever, something like that. I'm starting to get those. It was like 4 o'clock after.
Is that why you got shorter just a minute ago?
This is what Kelly Bidlin feels like, and I can talk trash about him because he's out of town. It's great. Like this is what he feels like being on the desk all the time. Microphone keeps slipping down, so I'm just going to make sure that it's even with my mouth, and then like we'll fix it on the break there.
Yeah, for our radio audience, you should definitely tune into VSiN.com so that you can get the visual here that we have. That said, let's get into a little Major League Baseball talk. I know it's a huge slate today, and there are some bets that we're going to get into, but I am curious, big picture, if there are any early season trends that you've noticed in baseball. Now we're about 10% of the way through the season already.
Yeah, so I was flying back from Cleveland yesterday. I had to go home for a family matter, and I was thinking I gotta find something to write about. Right, 4.5 hour flight, Southwest, so I have Wi-Fi. I'm like, I gotta find something to write about. So I start looking around. I'm like, I could talk about how bad the White Sox and the Rockies are, but everybody knows that. I could get some different things in terms of offense being down. And then I kind of went and I realized that the road team winning percentage in Major League Baseball is down substantially this season. It's about 38.9%. So we just round that up, make it easy, 39%. Typically on average, at least over the last 5 full seasons, excluding the 2020 COVID year, the road team win percentage is about 47.5%-ish% if you take an average of the last 5 full seasons. As I just mentioned, this year it's 39%. Now, we could sit there and say, okay, well, the Rockies and the White Sox are awful and, they're going to skew the numbers. But the Rockies and the White Sox were awful last year, too. And the other 28 teams in Major League Baseball combined for about a 48% win percentage on the road. So I don't necessarily know why this is. It is something that I'm going to follow, see if I can pick up on something. I don't know. But it is something that we've seen here so far this season. I don't know if the books have necessarily caught on to it, if they're shading favorites a little bit more, anything like that. But we are in a position right now where road teams winning fewer than 40% of their games, that hasn't happened in a very, very long time. So, I don't know if there's a rhyme or reason to it. I tried digging into the data a little bit, tried looking at, batted ball data in terms of, is the ball not carrying as much? Is it something about road exit velocities? Couldn't find anything statistically that kind of explains this year's phenomenon. So we'll see. But for right now, I guess buyer beware when you're taking road teams in MLB.
One of the things I've noticed here early on too, I think I was a little too worried about what they were going to be doing with these starting pitchers. And from what I've seen so far, Adam, and maybe you can let me know if you think I'm off base here, but it's kind of gotten just back to what the tried and true of what we know. And you get to high 90s, like, you get to mid high 90s pitch count. Once you hit 100, they're going to pull you no matter what. Like, last year we saw a ton of this, like, okay, hard out at 5 innings. The analytics were saying we didn't want you going through the lineup for the 3rd time, et cetera, et cetera. But like, we're seeing a lot early on in the season here. Dudes going 6 1/3, 6 2/3. If you can make it 7 because you can keep it under 100 pitches and whatever. So like, I don't know if we're going against that trend from last year necessarily, but I am seeing that I think maybe I was a little too worried about this. Okay, everybody's going to be out after 5 innings. They're never going to, it doesn't matter if you've only thrown 72 pitches or something.
So, I actually just looked at this as you were talking because it feels to me, and maybe I'm just biased because I'm a Guardians fan and I watch every game, they're a team that tends to swing early in the count, right? They'll swing at more first pitches. They want to put balls in play. They don't want to get to 2 strikes because everybody has nasty stuff with 2 strikes now. Breaking balls are, moving more than ever before, stuff like that. So I thought, okay, maybe we're running into a situation where pitchers can have a little bit more pitch efficiency because guys are swinging early in counts. But pitches per plate appearance this year, 3.9. Last year, 3.88. So it's not that. I think it's just maybe the fact that, pitchers are focusing more on just putting pitches in the zone, where it's going to move a lot, right? You're not just using your sliders and your curveballs and all that with 2 strikes as out pitches. We're seeing 3-0 changeups, 3-1 changeups, stuff like that. So guys maybe have a little bit better control and command of their secondary pitches. So I think maybe you kind of see that a little bit where you're trying to induce weak contact early on in the plate appearance so that you can last a little bit longer. And the other thing I think too is that for a lot of these managers last year, they used and abused their bullpens. And so I think early on this season, they're trying to squeeze a little bit more out of the starters while they're still fresh. And also we've seen, I believe in the last week, 4 or 5 teams have gone to 6-man rotations now just to try and give everybody a little bit more of a break. I fully expect that to continue to be a trend as the season goes along.
Because you mentioned your Guardians, do you have anything on Guardians-Yankees coming up this afternoon?
Yeah, so I have not been a fan at all of how Tanner Bybee looks so far this season. And I'm not sounding the alarm yet about a potential injury, but there's a few things I look for in terms of injury indicators. One of them obviously is performance, right? What does your command look like? Well, he's already given up 7 home runs this season. He's walked 11 guys in 20 innings. That's not what Tanner Bybee does. Tanner Bybee is typically a strike thrower, a guy that's, going to induce some weak aerial contact. He'll give up home runs because he's around the plate a lot, but the high walk rate is really concerning to me. The other thing is his spin rates are down on his 2 primary pitches, which to me is another indicator of maybe something going on. Now, you get a lot of noise in March and April because it's cold. So, the pitch is going to travel differently. It's going to be harder to grip, stuff like that. But Bybee has not pitched well, and lefties have pummeled him. And the Yankees are not nearly as right-handed heavy as they used to be. So I like the Yankees over 2.5 here for their first 5 team total. This is a good plus money number. It was plus 124 at DraftKings when I wrote up the article here this morning, and I try to use their lines because they're widely available. But Bybee's getting no swings and misses outside the zone. When you have to be in the zone, it seems like the Yankees are going to take advantage. So I thought about completely fading the Guardians tonight. I don't really like Will Warren and what he's done lately for the Yankees, but I do think New York is able to find some offense here early on. So their first 5 team total over 2.5 a play for me.
We'll get into some of your other thoughts here whenever we get on the other side, but just real quick, we haven't really seen some of these guys that we came into the season thinking we're going to be completely dominant yet. I mean, Skeens is really good, but he hasn't been just completely dominant. Skubal's been really good. He hasn't been just completely dominant. When we look at this like Cy Young market, which, I think might be a little more volatile this year than we thought, do you think we should maybe start looking at some of these dudes that are 25, 35, like something like that, and just, bet that maybe we're continuing on with what we see with the Skeens and Crochets and Skubals and stuff of the world?
Yeah, I mean, again, one of the things about the awards markets in Major League Baseball is you've got to stay healthy, right? You have to be able to rack up those counting numbers to have an impressive enough statistical profile for both the new age of voters that look at the advanced metrics and the old school voters that are going to look at ERA and innings pitched and strikeouts, stuff like that. And when you've got guys at the top in the American League, like Garrett Crochet, like Tarek Skubal, guys that have had very significant innings increases here recently, and I worry about health with those guys, so I would not take a short price at this time. I mean, in terms of looking at somebody who's maybe a little bit down the board, I'm on the Mariners today. I think Bryce Miller at 50-1 is kind of interesting. The way that he's kind of changed around his pitch usage, his pitch arsenal, I think it's going to generate more strikeouts as we go throughout the course of the season. The other one here for me is, Nate Eovaldi at 45-1. He's always hurt at some point, but maybe he won't get hurt this year. And at 45-1, that's a pretty ample price for a guy who's off to a really strong start.
Adam does have his daily article up right now at VSiN.com. When you're a subscriber, VSiN.com/subscribe, you can come join us right now for just $59. You get access to all of the daily content from guys like Adam, the breakdowns, the best bets, the betting splits, all of that stuff available each and every day. We're going to take a quick timeout. We're rounding out our best bets of the day next on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
This show has absolutely flown by as we welcome you back to Money Moves on a Tuesday. Always does when I'm with some of my favorite people, Matt Brown and Adam Burke, on the desk with us as we round out today's episode. We're going to get to some best bets in a moment. But let's kick things off here real quickly, just reminding people of the games that we have in the NBA postseason coming up tonight. The Pacers down from a 6.5-point favorite to 4 against the Bucks, with the expectation that Damian Lillard is going to be back here for game 2. OKC laying 14.5 against the Grizzlies after the 51-point win in game 1. And the Lakers in a bounce back spot, 5.5, 6 against the Timberwolves as they look to try to regain their home court a little bit here after that early loss. Any thoughts on these games for you guys?
I mean, first off, that Indiana-Milwaukee, after talking to Justin, I mean, he did, Justin Pham from Unabated a little bit earlier in the show, he did make some good points, right, of the fact that we're just assuming that just because Dame plays that he's going to get minutes. But, I mean, that's not for certain, for sure, right? And, I mean, even though he said they have him projected for 30 minutes, I mean, that could be more like 24 minutes, and if that's the case, then it doesn't really shift, I think, our perception quite as much as it would if we thought that Dame's going to go out there and play a full complement of minutes. So I think that if there is just a word of caution, if you're going in and betting that game, it would be that, hey, even if he plays, that doesn't mean like green light.
Yeah. Which, and Adam, I'm curious your thought on this too, because what Justin told us was that even within that 30-minute projection, assuming Damian Lillard was fully healthy, he still had their algorithm points prop at 17.4 points. His prop today opened 19.5, and I'm seeing at DraftKings now it is 17.5. If he has lower minutes, do you think that the under would be a side worth looking at?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, look, when you talk about the NBA playoffs and you talk about, kind of the nature of NBA betting, it is something that I think in a lot of cases, it's definitely younger people who are still very much engaged with the NBA and they know the superstars, right? I mean, this is something where if you're a sportsbook operator, why wouldn't you shade up the points prop for anybody who's a star player, anybody who's a key player, something like that? So, yeah, I mean, again, who knows how effective Dame's actually going to be, but to your point, I mean, 19.5, maybe he goes over it, but it probably is set a little bit high just under the expectation of we're going to take money on the over, right? Nobody wants to root against this guy from what he's been through and take the under. So, yeah, I think that's definitely something to keep in mind here. And look, I mean, another game where, you mentioned this during the break where you're talking about some of the betting splits over at VSiN.com. And again, you'll get access to those with that $59 summer special, comparing DraftKings and Circa, the differences in the public wagering percentages between the two sports books. Look, I mean, when you beat a team by 51, yeah, it's going to stand out. There's no doubt about that. But Memphis was a very good regular season team. I mean, they were almost +5 in net rating throughout the course of the regular season. I don't think they're going to shoot under 18% from three again. They're probably not going to shoot under 35% from the floor. And OKC is probably not going to light it up the way that they did. So I would be content and comfortable. I mean, I don't really do much with the NBA, but I would be content and comfortable taking +14.5 with Memphis here. And that's what you want to look at in these NBA series where teams will make adjustments, right? You're playing the same team again. You're not traveling in between games, all that kind of thing. So 14.5 seems a little bit rich there on OKC.
And Stormy, just as we were talking about that, two different books went to 15 just while Adam was talking, and then instantly was bought back down to 14.5. So like there is now obviously where the same sentiment issue is kind of, okay, look, I get it. And I understand it might be the best team in the NBA, but like 15 points in the NBA is 15 points, right?
And those DraftKings numbers, by the way, that we have at VSiN.com, 70% of the bets, 74% of the handle are on OKC at DraftKings. Meanwhile, at Circa, you see 82% of the bets that are on the Thunder, just 30% of the money. So 70% of the handle that's coming in here at Circa, where we see those professional bets, those bigger wagers coming in, are all taking the points with Memphis in this spot. Okay, guys, let's get into our best bets today, presented by GBank, the official bank of VSiN. And for anybody that's new here, if you haven't checked out the GBank Visa Signature Card, they are offering you right now for new customers who spend $1,000 on eligible purchases from 90 days of account opening. They're giving you a $250 bonus. If you want more information, head over to VSiN.com/GBank. That's VSIN.com/GBank. Subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions do apply. Mateo, why don't you start us off here?
Yeah, I talked about this a little bit earlier. I mean, I'm going in and back in the A's tonight at home against Patrick Corbin. Patrick Corbin, a guy that I really like fading. Adam, he's a dude in 2025 in Major League Baseball that, has an 8% swinging strike rate, a 15% K rate, and a 7% walk rate. He walks too many people. He doesn't strike out enough people, and he's not missing enough bats. And so I know this A's team isn't maybe as good as they've shown so far, but hey, I'll ride the heater with this team right now. They're swinging some pretty good bats, and I just like to pick on Patrick Corbin. So I'm backing the A's at home here against Texas.
Yeah, I have a play in this game too. It's actually on the other side though. Texas's first 5 team total over 2.5, because I want to fade Osvaldo Bido, the pitcher for the A's tonight. He's made 4 starts here so far, only one of them at home, and we know that runs have been scored aplenty in Sacramento. I mean, this total went up from 9.5 to 10.5 out there in the market, but a guy that, made a cold weather start in Denver. It was 39 degrees. Had a start in Seattle, one of the best pitchers parks in baseball. Road start against the Chicago White Sox, who are pathetic. So I think he's a guy where his numbers are a little bit inflated right now. Doesn't miss a lot of bats. Left on base percentage over 81%, nearing 82%. 261 ERA, but a 537 xFIP, a big-time fly ball guy. So I think both of these starters are guys you could make a case for going against. The first 5 total, though, was 5.5 with the over juice to minus $1.30. Didn't want to take that, but I think this is a game where we should see runs scoring early.
We might see 6 runs in the first inning.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yep.
This is all said.
I have a million bets today, so you want me to go through them all?
Okay, let's start. Let's start on the hockey side of things, because that's where this is where you're just rock and roll.
Okay, so I am taking the Lightning today on the money line. I know it's up to minus 120 right now, and I bet a better number, but I still think it's worthwhile taking in game 1 against the Florida Panthers today. And I'm on the under 5.5 goals. I decided I'm going to put that in the account as soon as we get off the air. The goaltending, both of these guys, Andrei Vasilevsky, former Vezina winner, playing at peak form. Sergei Bobrovsky has also been awesome. Since the Four Nations break, he's been rolling. 195 goals against average, 914 save percentage. And stylistically, for these two teams, I think it's interesting. We're going to see a physical, hard-fought match here. Lightning's offense, yes, has been great scoring off the rush, really provides momentum for them in game, but Panthers lean heavily on their forecheck, and I think can limit them. They don't allow a lot in transition. So I like the under 5.5 there and the Lightning. I'm also on the Canes puck line. I told you I do not like this matchup for the New Jersey Devils at all. They blew them out in game 1. The shot disparity was crazy. I think they do it again today. So I'm going with the puck line, and I like the idea of pairing the Carolina Hurricanes money line with the Lakers on the money line. We talked about this with Justin Fan. LeBron in previous series going into this one, he had lost 6 game 1s at home in his career. He's 6-0 in that bounce back role. I expect the Lakers to get the win today at home. I bet the 5.5 yesterday. Don't love it as it continues to climb. So a fun way, I think, to play that is by pairing it with the Carolina Hurricanes for them both to win outright.
I thought you had more.
I can have more if you want. I also like LeBron over 24.5 points today. I think that he has a big bounce back. Truly could go off for 30. So if you want to bet this and get some alts instead of a minus 110, maybe have a little bit more fun with LeBron in a bounce back role at home. So I like that. And I bet the Diamondbacks in the first 5 innings. So I don't bet a lot of baseball. F5s, if you bet a money line, you can push, right? If it's so.
Yeah, if it's tied.
I like this idea. The Diamondbacks today are minus 170 on the money line for the full game. In the F5, it's minus 150. So it's still pricey, but you have that opportunity for a potential push. And sorry, why are you looking at me so funny, Matt?
I'm not. I'm interested in what you have to say. I'm interested in what you have to say.
I like the pitching matchup, at least on paper. Zach Littell, 0-4 with a 5.48 ERA. Brandon Fod has a higher ceiling as a pitcher. Rays haven't been great on the road. So F5 with the pitching advantage, I think, in their favor. Why not?
Look at that. These best bets are brought to you by GBank, the official bank of VSiN.
Nailed it.
There you go. Look at that. So, real quick, Adam, I put you on the spot. You're a Browns fan. They got the pick. They got the second pick. We hear today maybe they're fielding calls. Is this just all smoke to try to whatever? They're taking Travis Hunter. We don't need to make anything of this.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote up the number 2 pick a week and a half ago at VSiN.com where it was still posted. I haven't seen odds for a while now. They're taking Travis Hunter. I mean, look, this is one of those things where you just feed something to somebody who just wants to get news.
Well, you don't want it to be stale for 48 hours, right? Because everyone thinks they know 1, 2, 3. So it's kind of we can't make it stale for 48 hours.
Now, look, I mean, that being said, if you're Andrew Berry, right, you go ahead and float this rumor and you go, well, if someone's going to give us a ton for it, why not? But it's probably not going to be the case. They're going to take Travis Hunter.
Yeah, that's my thought.
I do not think they wind up with Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, it's still a televised event, and they want people to have some intrigue, and so you can't just have it be stale for the next 48. You got to float some stuff out there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Get people ready to watch this thing on Thursday.
In addition, by the way, we mentioned all of the best bet articles you can get at VSiN.com. There's a lot of different breakdowns regarding the NFL draft. We also have that specialty programming that Matt will be leading the way as the core host for coming up on draft day Thursday. We are just 2 days out. Fun show as always today, guys. Really appreciate you. You're the
Always
best.
Good to be here.
Stick around here on VSiN. We might be done, but the action is not. Nick Whalen, Jeff Erickson holding it down with prop points coming up after this. Plus, Make It Rain with Adam Shine and Follow the Money with Mitch Moss a little bit later on this afternoon.